Check, check, check. Test, test, test. Check, check, check. Hello, hello, hello. Check, check, check. Test, test, test. 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 Test, test. Check, 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 check. Test. Test, test, test. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Shelly. Check, check, check. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Can you hear me? Yeah? And how's the sound if I turn this on?
A lot of bass, but
A lot of what?
a lot of bass.
Okay. How about now? It's better? Check,
Okay.
check.
Yeah, it's fine.
Can you hear the voice compared to this? Check, check, check. Test, test, test. It's good? Okay. Check, check, check. Test, test, test.
Wi-Fi isn't set up on this device. You can find instructions in the help section of your Alexa app.
Just doing another check here. Can you hear my voice compared to the backing track? Seem like pretty decent mix. Okay, cool. Great. Let's get something going here for everybody. Let's get something going. That did not work. All right, awesome. Before we even get into the loop, I want to go over Limb Dapple again today, but also I want to go over the hemiola part, and also I want to go over a similar thing with blues scales, because they're kind of similar. And I also want to do more with chromaticism. So for anybody that was here before, you'll recognize this, but people that weren't here on Thursday, I'm going to introduce you to Limb Dapple. And so the idea is that we have a fixed bass note and we change the key signature. Can everybody see my screen? Great. So I put here with G as a fixed bass note. That's what we did on the Thursday class, but we're going to actually do it with A today, just so we can get in the habit of it. So instead of 2 sharps, it'll be 3 sharps, you know, for Lydian. So the way it works, just briefly, is you start with A major, which we've been doing the entire class, when we take A major and we play it in what's called extended range. So actually on the violin you would start on G sharp and you go up to B. And you just make sure that you can play in extended range across a key signature. And if that's easy for you, then do that in 2nd position, 3rd position, 4th position, 5th position, 6th position. Do it in 3rds, 4ths, 6ths, 7ths. Do it in sequences. Do it randomly. Right? That's the whole practice, to internalize that key signature across the instrument. So if you want to just kind of get, I'm going to suggest to you today that you go through this exercise using A as a fixed bass note. And you just start with A major, and you just do that, whatever that means to you. And if you need to write it out, then write it out. But another way to do it is to write out a key signature. And the key signature for A major would just look like 3 sharps. G sharp, F, C, and G sharps. So you can write that on a paper and you can just stare at it. Otherwise, you can write on the score. And before we get to looping, I just want you to practice it without any background track. I just want you to be able to hear it like that. So do that at whatever level you want. If you're super advanced, you could say, like, I'm going to do it all in triple stop 6. You know, or I could put a 7th followed by a 6th or something like that. Like there's no amount of endless things you can do with A major to be challenged with it. So this is my recommendation for how you start practicing. Get familiar with A major. Get it under your fingers. Do some version of what I was just talking about. It could be a sequence. Or another sequence, which could be like 1, 3, 5, 7. And if this is the first time you've picked up your instrument for the day, then obviously, or maybe not obviously, which is why I'm saying it, treat this as a warm-up. So that means, you're going slowly, thinking about your posture, all these other things. But you have this focus on internalizing this particular tonality. So it's like the beginning of your warm-up. And this is how you get started with it. So that is A major. Everybody is comfortable with that. But what I'm going to show you with Lim Dapple is that we're going to add 1 sharp to the key signature. So we're going to add D sharp. And this gets us into this discussion of playing all 7 modes of A, where A is a fixed bass. So we're going to keep A in the root, but we're going to go from the lightest mode to the darkest. So A Lydian is going to have 4 sharps. So now I want you to just add that sharp and see if you can do it. Everything else you just did before, but adding D sharp. And if you want, you can like sing the note A. A. And you can try to play while you sing the note A. A. Which I can't do very well. In fact, I'll just bring the loop in. So now you can hear that A's in the bass, but you're using those 4 sharps. Practicing wherever you're at, looking a guide, using a visual aid if you need to. This is in 3. I did that. I wanted to make it different than Thursday's class, so we're in 3 or 6. So you could do you could do 3-note patterns if you want, or 6-note patterns. You could choose that pattern. I mean, you can get crazy and do all thirds. Do something like that. You could do fourths. Now again, if you wanted to focus on shifting, then you could be playing on 1 string and shifting a lot. You could focus on intonation, your bow arm, your posture, your breath, all these things, but also having this focal point be A Lydian, 4 sharps over A, the brightest mode of A. Then we drop that back to A major, which we already did. So we'll go past the 3 sharps, and we're going to go down to 2 sharps over A. Two sharps over A. F sharp and C sharp. Is that volume better, Megan? Well, Megan's giving me a something. What, that's not loud enough?
I'm finding it hard to hear over my playing, and I've got my mute on and everything.
Cool. No, that's fine. Yeah, I was just checking here. So let's just do a sound check here. Can people hear that or not? I'll make it a little louder. Is that better? Okay, just tell me if you want it louder. That's fine. Just want to make sure. 2 sharps. Now we go to 1 sharp. 1 sharp, so F sharp. One sharp, F sharp. So let's go to no sharps, no flats. And another thing you can do if you don't want to play sequences, and you can just improvise and try to create random lines, you know, so no sharps, no flats. So the next thing is to play 1 flat, so B flats, B flats. It's the same as F major, but we're playing it over A in the bass. One flat over A. And finally, the darkest mode, which is Locrian, is going to have 2 flats. Two flats, B flat and E flat. So it's the B flat major scale with A in the bass. And that's Lim Dapple. So it's Lydian, Ionian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, whatever they are. Lydian, Ionian, Mixolydian, Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, and Locrian. And what I said on Thursday is, you know, of course you can stare at this page and you can try to understand how it all works theoretically and what are the implications. You know, it's kind of like doing algebra problems. There's like 5 ways to explain an algebra problem. And so you can get caught in that rabbit hole if you want, but I recommend just don't worry too much about what does it all mean, and just more focus on doing it, because I feel like it's really useful to practice it. And yeah, and so the way it works is everybody knows what A major is, right? A major has 3 sharps, and so the way that it works is we start with major, and then we add a sharp, and that gives us Lydian, and then we just subtract sharps and add flats all the way down 7 times, and that's how we get Lim Dapple, and that is the exercise. And let's take another example. Let's take some comping. So so you're going to comp for me. I'm going to play in Lydian, and what I want you to notice is like the ways that I could comp. So one way to comp is to play double stops. Oops. So if somebody is soloing in Lydian, then you can comp for them by creating any kind of double stops out of the chords. Right? Playing sixths, fourths, thirds, anything. Another thing you could do to comp would be to do like something. You can do that with double stops, or you can break it up. So I'm breaking it up. I'm breaking up the notes in the scale and making this little arpeggiated line. You know, you could play anything like that. So you comp for me a Lydian. 1, 2, 3. So now let's skip around a little bit. Comp for me in Mixolydian. So in Mixolydian, you're going to play two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And see if you can explore other comping ways. 1, 2, 3. Let's skip around one more time. Let's do it with no sharps, no flats. No sharps, no flats. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's trade a little bit. Let's trade a little bit. No sharps, no flats. All right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You got it. All right, my turn. So let's just take a second reflect on this. So if we think about the you know, usually when we think about organizing a scale, we just think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? But we can organize it in terms of the leaps involved too. So like 1, 3, 5. Right? You can either use the triads like that or the seventh chords. And if you look at all the different ways to organize that, then just thinking about creating your tunes, you can make the tunes out of those different chords. So we have an A minor chord, we have a C major, we have a D minor, we have an F. So if you look at like what I was doing for the comping there for a minute, I was playing like A minor, F, G, you know, A minor, F, E minor. So basically just like playing any of those chords over top of A, any of those chords. And a lot of times when you play double stops, if it's fourths or thirds, you're sort of implying a chord, or at least part of a chord. But you can also do the same thing with your melodies, which is kind of what I was doing. Like this is like E minor, F, C, G, A minor, D minor, G, F, C, G, E minor. Right? So almost randomly you can make a song out of these different, this is like the Pirates of the Caribbean or something, right? It's kind of like this kind of Celtic melody stuff where it's very modal. So you can almost just drag and drop any chords you want and you make a song. I mean, all the improvisations I've been doing, I wish I was recording it. I guess it'll be on here. But I feel like every time I was like writing a tune, basically, you know. And you can try to do that. You can try to write a little tune. And so whether it's for your comping, you can think about, okay, I'm going to play an F chord, then an E chord, then a whatever. But same thing for your improvising. So, all right, some more. Let's go, where are we at here? Let's go 2 flats. Or no, sorry. 1 flat. No, let's go back to where we were so you can deal with that concept so it doesn't throw you off. And if you want, you can write the little chords down so it helps you. Even though we derived them from the scale, if it helps you, you could just write down the name of the chords. What are they? Well, there's an A minor chord, there's a G major chord, there's an F major chord, there's an E minor chord, and a D minor chord. Those are the prominent ones. A minor, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major. So a little more trading. So that's 4 chords. A minor, G, F. Just stick with that. E minor. So A minor, G, F, E minor. You can try that. A minor, G, F major, E minor. Just looping that. A minor, G major, F major, E minor. And you can either be trying to find it, the actual chords, F, E minor, or you could just be blowing over it. Cool. Let's go to one flat, and let's try to see if we can do some of the rhythm stuff with the one flat. So, maybe find your one flat. So let's see if we can find this. What I'm trying to do is just quickly give you lots of variations. I hope it's not too confusing to you, but the goal is if you find one that works for you, like the easiest rhythmic variation here could be just playing all 6. But if you want to create more of a challenge for yourself, play just the first beat or something, Play 2 notes. This is harder. And you can come up with all kinds of variations that are for wherever you're at. But I'm going to give you some examples now where you mix the notes from the modes. The notes don't matter as long as they're in the mode. And if you were like comping for me with that, you can try to comp for me.
Sorry, Mr. Host, the connection is. I think we lose your connection. Hear us, right? Is everybody connection? Oh,
I think now it's better, but it was very glitchy.
yeah.
Okay, now it's fine. It seems fine.
I think sometimes he has to go to a different server or something. It cuts out.
You got me back? Am I back? Everybody see me?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
good.
back.
Yeah, I switched to the other network. Sorry about that. But let's take a pause anyway. What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? You can unmute yourself and blurt out if you want. Is it too hard? Is it too easy?
Well, we missed the whole mixing of modes thing because I didn't hear any of it.
Well, how much did you miss?
All of it.
The last comping bit was completely gone.
What was it, like 2 minutes or was it like 10 minutes?
Like 2 minutes.
So-
Okay. All right. Yeah. So well, I was kind of taking a breath to pause the whole thing anyway. But basically, yeah, we can try the comping. Let's try that comping one more time. So what I was showing was that you could do, one way to do the comping would be to work on your rhythm, right? So if I was comping and soloing at the same time, this is what it would sound like. You see what I mean? It's like the comping is down there. It's just doing this little stuff, and then the solo's up on the top. There's a couple ways to think about comping. Like you could, depending on who the soloist is, some soloists are like, fill that space underneath me, make a lot of space. Other soloists are like, don't get in my way. I'm more of a person that's like, don't get in my way. I've gotten in trouble for having strong opinions about that. But it kind of depends on your sophistication and how well you're able to interpret the soloist. Now, obviously, you're not getting in my way because you're muted, so it's fine. But the point is, there's lots of ways that you can explore that comping role. You can do it in a more dense way. You can do it in where you're like just waiting for the spaces and filling those spaces. So go ahead and try to comp for me using one flat and using that rhythmic kind of idea. If you don't want to use a rhythmic idea, do the more pads thing. There's lots of ways to do it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Is this opportunity where we could do the bass and then the down to the 5, like that kind of comp?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Like before, we've done some lines where we do the bass, the root note, and then we drop it down and play the 5th underneath it. Kind of find a little thing going on with that.
Yeah, thanks
I'm
for
trying
asking.
to find a pattern that I can like hang with and apply.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. Yeah, thanks for asking. So one of the distinctions I'm making here is that this is a little bit, I'm thinking of it slightly differently in the way that we did the chord stacks, because this has like a bass line. Now we can learn the bass line. Or you can hear the bass line. That's the simpler bass line. You could just do that. Right? But then what I'm saying is, instead of trying to figure out, well, what is the chord? What I'm saying is, instead of doing that, think of it as more of an open modality where you're where you're creating notes that are just mixtures of the notes in this scale. And
So don't worry about having a root of A and then trying to put the B flat in there.
Exactly, because the bass is playing the A, right? Now you could practice playing the bass line for sure if you want. But in that case, you're basically just playing, you're just playing A. That's all the bass is doing. Right. And there, this is, you could create a bass line that has that note A. So it could be. It could be, it could be something like that where we're always landing on the A and then we're playing these other notes in the modality. But what I'm more recommending is just take any dyads, triads, or 4-note combinations and randomly mix them up.
Just mix it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of. The idea.
No, it does. Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to grab onto some kind of pattern rather than just going, but I see where you're going. So it's just getting used to the scale notes and just playing around, fitting in the B flat. And
yeah, I'll give you a pattern. I'll give you like a pattern, right? So I'll take example. And the only reason I'm not sitting on the examples too long is because I don't want people to think like, well, that's the only one, and I want you to be able to explore it. You know, like I don't want you to get stuck in one. But it's totally legit to say like, I don't understand anytime, and I'm happy to give you, you know, something that's okay. So let's try it. So you guys can calm for me and see how it feels to you. Okay. That's the comping. Where was I going with all that? Oh yeah. So I wanted to stop and say what makes sense, what doesn't make sense of all of it that we've done so far today.
Kristen.
Yeah.
When do you know what mode to use? It doesn't matter?
Right. No, that's a great question. That's a really great question. So,
we just lost you again.
No, do you have me?
No, we just got you back.
That's weird. I was saying that's a great question. I think like a key signature usually tells you what mode, but I'm really focused on situations where you have like one chord that happens for a long time, or like one note that happens for a long time. Like a classic example is like, you know, we're playing, you know, if you're playing like a bluegrass tune, like Cluck Old Hen. Like there's chords written in there, but basically you could just treat it as like playing in D. So same thing with lots of bluegrass tunes, lots of Celtic tunes, lots of fiddle tunes, lots of jazz tunes. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I can answer the question like how do you know? There's lots of situations where this will be applicable. Even later on today when we're going to play Chameleon, which is a funk tune, this will kind of be applicable to that. So that's why I'm kind of bringing it in. So yeah, that's a really good question.
What would it, sorry.
Is it me, or are you freezing on us again? Your screen, because I really didn't hear much of that explanation. I don't know.
I think it's you this time. You this time.
Okay.
Yeah, what I said was I don't know.
Okay.
That's the short version. It's hard to explain. There's lots of situations where this could be applicable. But if nothing else, like just practice this. You know, like it's a good practice. Trust me on that. You know.
Just on the comping, Kristen, when you were freestyling a little bit there a minute ago, it seemed like you weren't adhering to, like, say, the time signature, which I'm sure you normally don't do. So what would it have been better to hew to the 6/8 or the 3/4 or whatever, or try and do something to enhance what you were doing, which I don't know what that would have been.
Oh, well, I mean, right, exactly. So basically the way I explained it earlier, I think that you always have a choice between like getting out of the way or piling on or doing something in opposition or reinforcing the original thing or reinforcing the thing I'm doing. I mean, I was aware of the time signature. I was just kind of creating tension against it. But yeah, you could try to catch that, like, oh, he's playing groups of 5. Let me see if I can catch that accent. But also, I was moving so fast, it also could be an argument to be like, no, just stay out of my way. You know, it depends on, again, it depends on the preference of the band leader. And again, it's basically chamber music, or the soloist, the preference of the soloist, you know, that sort of thing. And it's kind of like, try it all those different ways. Does that make sense? Other questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a quick question. When you were doing the mix between the comping and the soloing, do you usually stay with a static like couple bar measure solo, couple bar measure comp, or do you switch that up a lot? I really like the way it sounded. I just couldn't really.
Well, yeah, you know, one of the things I actually like to practice that is a lot of times, because if I'm playing over just a bass player and a drummer, and I'll kind of tell the piano player shut up, and or the guitar player, I'll be like, just lay out. I just want to play open. I want to play by myself with the bass player and the drummer. I mean, this is kind of weird, you know. I mean, it's more esoteric for like weird jazz people like me or whatever. So then I kind of model it after like guitar players and piano players. So if you think about like a piano player who's taking a solo, they might be like, ba-da-da-beep, ba-ba, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, and I could do that more literally, like just like, again, taking the triads out of the situation. So you see that's kind of what I'm trying to do there. So the answer to your question is it doesn't really matter.
Sick, but I love that explanation of comparing it to how piano and guitar players do it. That makes a lot of sense.
Also, it's just a flex. Sometimes I just do it. I'm not proud to say that sometimes I just do it to flex on the piano players.
I love it.
Because, you know, because that's like the story of my life is like being the underdog, you know, showing up to the jam session and everybody's like, oh, here comes the violin player. So it's like a Groundhog Day where, you know, oh, you're always underestimated. But anyway, I should be more gracious in how I deal with that. I have to get over that. Okay. Any other questions? Laura, what's up?
Hi. I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of the lesson, but I don't know if you talked about this. I had once an introduction to the modes and I never went deeper, so I don't know them. But I was only told that and taught that there were minor and major modes. So if it's the case, would it be that in a minor song or in a minor chord you can apply any of the minor modes and sing with the major mode? Or that's not how it works?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, I don't ever want to like punt on people's questions, but at the same time, and this is one of the things I kind of said in the beginning of the class, like it's all on this document. If you want to read it and like kind of like try to understand what is going on here, you can, but I would say that just what you said is a perfect example of probably what everybody here has experienced around this conversation of modes, which is like trying to understand it and then not doing anything with it because it's just weird and it's confusing. So that's why I'm trying to give you something that's really practical in a way that you can really understand and apply. And instead of like a long explanation so that we can just nerd out and think about it and talk about it. Because the whole point to me is, no, I want to play, you know, like let's play, let's make something. And how do I practice? How do I bring this in my practice? So basically I have to punt on your question, sorry. And it's not that I don't want to answer it, it's just I'm not sure that I'm capable of answering it, number one. And second of all, I feel like if I answer it, it's just going to confuse everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
But I do care.
I know.
It's not that I just want to discourage people from asking questions. It's just, yeah. Anything else?
Can you? Yes, I have a question. So maybe it's because we've had structure before with chords, and now we have a full scale. And so we're going every place we want to go with no structure. And all of a sudden now we're like, ah! Could that be the reason?
That's fair. That's fair. And again, like if you want, like you can, that's why I tried to mention like that you can think about the chords that emerge from the scale, right? The chords that emerge from the scale, in this example we're doing right now, you've got that chord, B flat major, C minor, D minor, E flat major, F major, G minor. Those are the 7 chords that basically can, the 7 triads that are most fundamentally constructed out of this mode. So if you want structure, you can just look at those 7 triads and be like, let me play this triad. Now let me play that triad. If you want even more structure, I could give you examples, like just play E flat and then F, and then E flat and then F. But that's kind of what I've been doing for the entire semester, is I create these little loops for you, and they're all modal. And so that's kind of my point, is I'm also sort of showing like the secret sauce behind everything that I'm doing. Like, so if you want to create loops for yourself, if you want to make play along videos for other people, if you just want to be able to arrange ideas in a more easy way, you can use this methodology of just taking a mode, putting a bass underneath it, and then taking 2 chords, two chords, 3 chords, 4 chords. So one example would be like F, G minor, then E flat, then C minor. So there you go, boom, there's a loop. Then you could just now just change the order of them, take any of those chords, put them in a hat, roll the dice, pull the thing out of the hat, and boom, you've got like 1,000 different grooves you could come up with. Thousands of different little songs or grooves, or vamps. But I guess what you're saying is that you feel like there's too much to choose from. Is that what you're saying?
No, just that well, I don't know. I guess it's not confusing because you take away, you add, and so that's clear. Maybe just because it doesn't sound as melodic, maybe?
Right, sure. Yeah. We're kind of going through the all these, like I said, like modes from light to dark. So some of these modes you might be like, that's a weird sound. I didn't come here for that. I want to, and that's fine. Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, absolutely.
Another quick question, if I can,
Yeah.
Christian. It seems to me that it's like 2 totally different ways of thinking, and so I could see how it might be useful in a bluegrass or Celtic tune or whatever, or maybe like an extended, as you said earlier, like if there's a long chord in a jazz piece or whatever. But other than that, how often do you find yourself thinking in terms of how useful is it to you as opposed to just thinking in terms of chords?
Yeah, okay. So basically, when you have chords that are changing very fast, this is less useful. Especially when you have chords that are changing fast and modulating. Like we did Norah Jones like last week, didn't we? So this is B flat major, B flat dominant 7, E flat major, D7, G minor 7, C7. So like every time those chord changes, you have to change, right? If you're trying to voice lead the chords. So that's a different situation. So in that situation, you're not going to get away with this unless you find a modality that works, which you actually could with G minor pentatonic. G minor pentatonic would actually work, But I mean, but then you're limited if that's the only way you approach it. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, so when you're playing, you think in modes a lot then?
Absolutely. And that's what we've been doing this entire semester, like with the warm-ups. I'm like, hey, you're in G major, right? That's all it is. And a lot of times, like the chords underneath are changing though. It might go from like C major to E minor to D7, but I said just play in G major. It's going to work, right? So that's what we've been doing.
And I'll just add, Bonnie, I don't remember if you were here on Thursday, but when we did this with Cantaloupe Island, you were, because that was really helpful for me. I had that in another lesson, and I just kept getting hung up on the chords, but it was easier to think of a key signature here, think of a key signature here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it just takes a bit of getting used to. But yeah, I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just say this. Voice, to me, like, voice leading is the most empowering thing you can learn. And that's why I teach it in week 1. I teach the chords and voice leading with the chord stacks, right? And I think it's the most empowering thing you can do is to know voice leading. But when you play in a modal with a modal strategy, it's easier, and yeah, it's easier. So it doesn't always work, but if you have the chance to use it, you should, And so a lot of times people are going to be thinking about the chords. Other times they're thinking about the scales, and we sort of find where we do that. Cool. Any other questions? Did you feel like it was helpful to go? Do you want to practice more of these modes? Like, do you want to practice more soloing? Do you want to do like playback lines? Do you want to do more comping? Do you want me to comp for you on the Lim Dapple modes? Or would you rather do something else? Practice modes. Okay, let's practice modes a little more then. Anthea said it. Anthea's she's a good avatar for this group. So maybe we'll go to G again. This is what we did on Thursday. I didn't just repurpose the same thing from Thursday. I did something different. But hey, if we're gonna do something else, let's change it up. So I'll just quickly. You can go from Lydian to which would be, how many sharps would that be? 2 sharps. So I'll give you Lydian, and I'll kind of demonstrate again all the comping and like the arranging side while you're improvising over top. So Lydian, 2 sharps. So as you're improvising with 2 sharps over G, remember all the things we always talk about. Playing clear phrases, playing in the pocket, record yourself, right? Maybe think about rhythmic durations. Could be like da do da da da, or ba-da-dee-dip, 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 ba-da-dee-dip. So just to give you a little bit, like, how did I think about that arranging part there? It was like a horn part, right? I just thought of a line, you know, like this. So you can try that if you want. Or you can do it like this. You can do either way. And then just pile on. Just pile on anywhere. And then you could keep piling on with like little percussive stuff underneath it, you know? And that's how I make loops, right? So that's Lydian. So let's go to, oh shoot, no. All right, we're stuck with that loop now because I messed it up, so I can't undo it all. Let's go back to A, and I want to look at this as it pertains to pentatonics, if that's okay. So, because I want to do some different... No, actually, let's talk about hemiolas first. So, as I've said, like, you should practice your sequences in, like, all positions, double stops, you know, whether it's thirds, fourths, sixths, sevenths, seconds, eighths, octaves, right? Triple stops, improvising your bow, you know, one string, like all these different ways, right? But also hemiolas. So the hemiola is really important. So I just want to go over that again. We've looked at it briefly in this class. But one way to do a hemiola, which is what I think she was talking about earlier. But if I do like this pattern. An easier way would be like so you can try it if you want. We'll try that one more time. Improvising your bow, any position you want, from B. I know this is a little fast. It might be a little bit advanced for some people, so sorry about that. Try it one more time. Here we go. So the idea is that you play triplets, but you organize them in groups of 4. Another way to do it would be, you know, so that's the last point I wanted to make about it, is to practice it with hemiolas, everything with hemiolas. All right, now let's go to the blues scales or the pentatonic scales. This is kind of related to mixing modes. It's kind of not. But basically, it's the idea of using the minor blues scale and the major blues scale. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going back and forth between a major pentatonic and a minor pentatonic. A major pentatonic, a minor pentatonic. The way we have to practice this, though, is to learn both of them by themselves. So let's look at a major pentatonic, which is the same as F sharp minor pentatonic. I would recommend that you write it out or just pull up the book where I've written it out for you. But basically, F sharp minor pentatonic. We can practice it together if you want. That's F sharp minor pentatonic. B, C sharp, down from B, A, F. If this is easy for you, play it in octaves. Play it in second position, in double stops. I'm going to do the fast version. Do that with me if you want. One more time. So the point is, no matter how advanced or less advanced you are, you want to take that and just work on it. So just work on it for a second. You have it written out for yourself if you need it written out for yourself, or if you're beyond that and you don't need to have it written out, then do it wherever it pushes your edge, right? I just played it in second position that time because I was like, let me challenge myself. So I played it in second position, right? So just take like a minute and work on F sharp minor pentatonic, which is the same as A major pentatonic. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to grab a Diet 7-Up. I'll be right back. Okay, now we do the same thing with A minor pentatonic. A minor pentatonic. So again, you want to write it down because that'll help you, unless you don't need to, in which case, good luck. So, I'll play it for you so you can hear me if you want. From C, from D. If it's too slow for you, then make it harder for yourself. E, G, from A, from C, down from A. G. E. D. C. A. G. E. We'll do that again, going up from G, A. From C, from D, from E, double daddy D, G, boo ba boo doo dee, A, do 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 dee dee, do do da dee dee. And then to wherever you want to take it. So work with that. A minor, pentatonic. Now we're going to put them together. We're going to put them together. So I'm going to let you hear what it sounds like to play. We'll play a major and then we'll play a minor. So I want you to play after me on this one. Major, minor. Major, minor, major, minor. So we've got the F sharp and the B, F sharp and B and C sharp, and then G, C natural, and D. From B. Major. Minor. That's it. Voice leading the major and the minor. So this is where, we've talked about voice leading major scales. Now we're talking about voice leading pentatonic scales. So when you mix the two scales eventually, then they kind of get blurred together in like a super blues scale. I made that up. Super blues scale. And so if you listen to like a line that I play, you'll hear that it's ambiguous whether it's one or the other or both. Whether it's mixing out in and out, you know, so it's major, minor, major, minor. The last line was like a weird blur of both of them. So one of the classes before we played a blues, but I said I'm not teaching the blues. It just happens to be a blues. Now I'm teaching the blues a little bit. And what I mean is that one of my mentors, Bobby Floyd, one day said to me like, hey, Chris, you know what we do sometimes in the black church is that we play these two scales. And he basically showed me exactly what I just showed you. Well, he didn't show me how to practice it, but he explained what he was doing. He did like the last thing I did for you. and I was like, oh. And I worked on it for the last 25 years since he told me that. And I'm still working on it. Because I'm never going to claim to like be a teacher of the blues. You know, let me just be clear. Like, I'm a white dude from Ohio. And, you know, but so I think of myself as like a translator. Like, you know, like I try, like Bobby Floyd, my mentor, he grew up playing the organ in a church from the time he was 2 years old. In a predominantly black church in Marion, Ohio. He was Ray Charles's organ player. Ray Charles, the B3 organ player on the road with Ray Charles. Like Bobby Floyd is like direct line to the truth. He's a true culture bearer. You know, I'm not. This is just kind of a disclaimer. I think it's important that I issue that disclaimer. And again, though, I think that, you know, for people that learn the violin, 99 out of 100 times, no matter what culture you come from, we learn the violin in a certain educational culture. We learn the violin in a specific way. So we all have that in common for the most part, even if we come from different cultural backgrounds. But the way that Bobby Floyd learned music was through his African-American cultural environment. That's how he understands music. He also understands music in a lot of ways. But I'm saying when it comes to this one thing, you know, and he explains it the way he explains it, completely different than the way that I explain it. And he thinks about it completely differently than the way that I think about it. And so all these things that I just showed you, Bobby Floyd probably does not practice any of those things, just to be clear. The reason I share these things is because this is how I practiced it. This is how I made sense of it. So I'm just translating like my understanding and my methodology for people who I feel like learned the same way that I learned. But I want to be careful to sort of say, you know, not be appropriating or not be misrepresenting what it is. You know, because like if I talk with Bobby about the blues, it would be a totally different conversation. You know, for lack of a better way of characterizing it, I would say that I'm very analytical, mathematical, scientific, whatever you want to call it, right? It's very analytical. It's discursive. It's like coming out of this whole thing, right? I feel like Bobby would not talk about it in that way. I feel like Bobby would talk about it in a more organic way. You know, it comes from an oral tradition. So, you know, so he played in church. He played in church and he listened to the preacher and he listened to other organ players and he made sense out of it that way. So I don't want to try to explain what that is. I can't do that, you know. Anyway, having said that, this is how I practice it. This is how I practice it. In combination with, of course, a lot of listening, a lot of, you know, emulation, imitation, copying, learning licks. People talk about learning licks. Let me just talk about learning licks real quick. So Bill Evans is a saxophone player who played with Miles Davis. I went on the road with Bill Evans for like 6 years, all around the world. Played with a lot of huge like stars, people you might know, et cetera, et cetera. But Bill Evans told me that the entire way that he learned to play the saxophone was by learning 3 licks. And all he did was practice 3 licks every day, and that's how he learned jazz. And the licks that he played, though, they were 4-bar 2-5-1 licks. So I'll give you an example. Like 2-5-1 would be like C minor 7 to F7 to B flat major 7. It might sound like something like this. That's a lick. That's one of, let's say that's a 4-bar bebop lick, which is playing a progression, you know. So he would play that, and then he'd play it in 12 keys. You know, whatever. So he'd play it in like all 12 keys, and then he would just do micro variations on it. So a micro variation would be like, that's a micro variation. And that's all he did. And he's one of the greatest jazz saxophone players in the world. He played with Miles Davis. He played with, you know, everybody. He's like a legend. He's like a living legend of the jazz world. He's like, you're right. So all he did was he learned everything by practicing licks. I like to think about like licks on one side and kind of all this stuff that I'm teaching you on the other side, and that they actually go hand in hand. So if anybody says, should I transcribe solos? I would say like, yeah, go ahead, transcribe solos. And it's like, to me, this is like the difference between data and stories, data and anecdotes, right? So if you say, well, how do you accumulate wisdom in life? Well, learn a lot of stories, go through a lot of things. Like listen to a lot of stories or create your own stories. And from those stories, wisdom is accumulated. But on the other hand, instead of having all these stories, you could just have truths and systems. So I feel like I kind of teach like systems in music. I always think that, like, yeah, if you want to learn licks, you can always learn licks. But there's lots of people out there that teach learning licks. There's not a lot of people that teach systems like I do in this way for you. There's people that do it in like a jazz studies way. So, yeah. I lost my train of thought. Okay. So let's do a little more play after me on major pentatonic and minor pentatonic. Again, I'm going to voice lead. We're going to voice lead. F sharp minor. A minor. A major. A minor. A major, A minor. Okay, that's it. And now what I want to do is actually, I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it on a song, Chameleon. which I don't even know who it's by. I think it's by Herbie Hancock. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it in a different key, and we're going to see how this really applies on a song. Where is it? Where is it? Boom. Chameleon. Bo 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 beep. Boo boo bo 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 beep. All right. Let's get rid of. Sorry. Goodbye, Norah Jones. Dugga dugga digga dee da. So that is just B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. So I'm going to show you that real quick. Don't quote me on that rhythm. But basically, so for our B flat minor 7, our 3rd and 7th is D flat and A flat. And then that's your 3rd and 7th on those 2 chords with voice leading. And our bass line, I'm just going to read it off the chart. B flat, E flat, I'll play that bass line in case you don't read bass clef. See if you can do it with the bow like this first, so you really internalize it. And then let that go. Because you've internalized it, so then you find the most efficient way to play it. So the melody. Repeat it. Going on. I messed that one up. Repeat this 3 times, right? And one more time. And then one more time. That's the tune. That's a trip, right? So the whole tune is just this, right? Let's just reflect on that. Like the chord progression is just 2 bars. And I actually kind of made a mistake because really you can just play one pentatonic over this entire thing, which would be B flat minor pentatonic. But you could still, it still kind of applies what we've been doing a little bit. Because we could also go between B flat Dorian, also known as the key of A flat major. And you'll get a little bit of the same effect of creating and releasing harmonic tension by having a scale that's more tense versus a scale that's more, I don't know what the word is, you know, less tense. So if we play A major over the, sorry, A flat major scale, the A flat major scale, same key signature, right? Then we get notes like the G and the C. And those sound kind of happy. And in fact, you could play the C minor pentatonic scale. And that's a very like happy sounding pentatonic over this. Or you could play the B flat minor, which is the one that most people would play. You could use F minor pentatonic scale. Or you could use the A flat major scale. So by using those 4 different scales, you're going to get different qualities of being more open versus more tense. But let's just try some B flat minor pentatonic. B flat, ba-ba-doo-dee. So what you could do, and I'm going to let you do this on your own, but what you could do is you could say, well, let me play something from the A flat major scale, and then let me play something from the B flat minor pentatonic. I'm going to give you an example. A flat major. Minor, B flat. Back to A flat major. And then back to B flat minor. So again, I'm sort of intellectualizing it, or I'm sort of making it feel formulaic. I'm not saying that you have to do this, but it's something you could try. So I'm going to let you have fun with this now. 1, 2, you got it. And remember, if you're just playing a bass line, that's great. If you're just playing inner voices, that's great. If you're just chopping, also great. Playing sequences from the scale, looking at it on the page, that's great. Micro variations based on the melody, great. Look at the melody, what can you do with the melody? Take motifs from the melody, great. melodic rhythms. Ba ba bo da. Ba 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 da. Bo 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 dee. Ba ba bo. Bo be bo dee. Ba bo ba do. Here's another melodic rhythm. Ba ba doo ba doo ba ba. Ba ba doo ba doo ba ba. Bo ba doo da da dee da. Bo be a ba doo ba bo. That's straight out of the melody, out of Herbie Hancock's melody. Another rhythm, ga-da, ba-da, 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 straight out of the melody. It doesn't have to be the same notes. It could be different notes. Ba-ba, 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 boo-dee. He also does ba-ba-doo-bo-da, ba-ba-doo-bo-dee, bo-da-dee-ah-da, ba-ba-doo-da-da. The reason I give you the melodic rhythms is because it gives you something to focus in on so you can really execute. Okay, we'll trade. Let's play the bass line. Inner voices. let's just clap on the groove. Like, how good can you make that clap feel? I told this story before, but when I was in the joint, I played with this R&B band. And he said, no, put your violin down. You're playing the cowbell. This is all you're going to do. That's it. And this is all I did for weeks. We practiced every day for hours, and I was hitting the cowbell on 2 and 4. Maybe learn to do a 2-step. He said, practice the 2-step. And it was like this. Was that it? Just practice your 2-step. Go practice the 2-step. Hit the cowbell. Make it feel good. So when you're in that band and you're like, I want to show all these things I can do, think about the caretakers of the world. Who's taking care of that backbeat? Somebody plays the drums. It's a whole lifetime of just making that backbeat feel good. That's all they ever do their entire life. Is just make that feel good. That's deep. So in the band, you could be like, okay, I don't need to play. I can just do a 2-step, or I can just do this, or maybe I'll chop it, maybe not. Maybe somebody else has got it. So I'm just bringing the presence to the music. I'm just feeling the groove. I'm just being present to the other musicians on stage, and I'm trying to like get deeper into that feeling. Let's do the melody one more time. We'll take it out. It's hard to make this feel good too. We'll take it out. Here you go. That's it. Woohoo! Lessons from the Joint. That's going to be the name of my book. All right. Any questions?
I have 2 really quick ones. I'm sorry. If
Bring
anyone else is okay, really quick. Earlier, I know that you were very aware of the rhythm, like the 6/8 rhythm underneath, and you said you always have that going, even when you're freestyling, as I call it. How do you get to that spot where you can do that? And my second question is about vibrato, and how do you use different types of vibrato, and how do you do that?
Yeah, no, that's great. So we go back to this. Well, I was talking about the hemiolas earlier, and it's also just groupings. So if I play like groupings of 5, you know. You know, for example, but I was doing that with like, I don't know, 16th notes. You know, and hemiolas and stuff like that. So the way you get to it is just by practicing hemiolas, practicing like 5-note groupings, 4-note groupings, 3-note groupings, and also practicing playing randomness. And the way you practice randomness is by playing a lot of sequences. So like I've talked before about like,
But you're never losing the background beat in your head.
Oh no, it's in my head. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm thinking about the grid the whole time. I'm aware of every 8th note or triplet, or I try to be. I mean, I got a little bit off there that time, but I knew that I was off and I got back.
Decades.
Well, no, but all the things I'm showing you, this is how you can practice it, you know? So as far as vibrato, I think that, you know, this is one of those things, and I think a lot of this actually is true in classical music too. Um, like all music is music, and this is another one of these things. But I think vibrato is really a spectrum, right, from nothing to like, you know, fast or wide or whatever. And so I think all of our teachers, if you studied classical music, all your conductors, all your teachers told you this before, but it was always lip service. We all know it. Everybody only has like the one or two vibratos. Maybe somebody like Richard Lee, who's here, like, you know, he's probably nerded out like with Augustine Hadalik or what, you know, like about like, you know, really having like these like infinitesimal variations of vibrato and incredible control of vibrato and incredible connection vibrato from different notes. But most of us realistically, we just, you know, you have like your one vibrato or your two vibratos, you know what I mean? So I think this is a great way to really reflect on that and just play without vibrato for a while, first of all. Because you'll see that it's just a habit, that you have a habit of playing with vibrato, and it's like you have to be more intentional about vibrato. So first of all, just be intentional with vibrato. Then second of all, listen to other people and think about what kind of vibrato are they using, what, you know, and try it on. I think that vibrato is like, I use the analogy, sometimes I get in trouble for this and I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, but it's like makeup. It's like makeup, you know what I mean? If you put like, you know, I feel like you should start by just washing your face, having a totally clean face, and then apply some makeup and be like, okay, is that right? I don't wear makeup, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I feel like people can understand it. You know what I mean? If it gets to be a thing where it's just like, yeah. So vibrato is an affectation, but it becomes a habit of our playing. And so I think we should always examine our habits, examine our affectations, remove them, start from zero, and then add them when we feel they're appropriate. But usually I'm not always even really conscious of when to use vibrato or when not to use vibrato. I've done a lot of studying other players and copying them, but including piano players, and piano players don't play with vibrato. There's no vibrato on a piano. So, but I copy singers, horn players, guitar players. Yeah, good questions, Vonnie. What else comes up for anybody? Did you get anything out of today? Was it too hard? Was it too easy? Was it fun? Was it boring?
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes.
I also have a lot of questions. So earlier you're kind of getting into the dichotomy between your sort of data and analytical side, as well as, I don't know, like the licks, right? And maybe I'm putting too much of a divide on it, but I've found if I go to it's been said to me before that I don't know the vocabulary of jazz. You know what I mean? By vocabulary, a lot of times they mean licks, or they mean, you know, phrasing or things like that, right? And so, you know, a lot of what I'm trying to take from this class is application to the bandstand for me. And I think this isn't just in jazz, this is in a lot of genres, right? And so, yeah, I think there's like a lot of ways to learn, but my question is how, like, when is it, I mean, it's probably never enough. This is a kind of an existential question, but when do you feel like you're comfortable enough to say, I know the vocabulary of jazz, you know, outside of the data or analytical, you know, bits about it, you know, you can break down everything somebody does. But can you put in the like are you, you know what I mean? Or something like that. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I guess like a lot of my issue is acceptance, and I think that's a lot of the issue of a string player in a genre that's outside of classical, I would say.
Yeah.
Or at least, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and this course is supposed to be like, you know, for any genre, and so I cover like lots of genres, but also I don't get like super deep into any one genre, and that reflects my eclectic tastes and interests. But I think that it's definitely a mistake for anybody to think that they can just play like 20 different genres and be super well versed in any one of them. Like, you know, like if you want to really get deep into understanding jazz vocabulary, then it's like a commitment to a lifestyle, you know. And it's the same thing in business when people are like, I'm going to start doing streaming concerts. Hey, I promoted a streaming concert next week, but like only 3 people came. Well, it's not your business model. If you want to have a business model doing streaming concerts, do it like every month for the next 5 years and grow an audience, you know. And so I think it's kind of the same kind of unmeaning arrogance on our parts. Then we're just like, I want to be able to know all the language. And it's like, yeah. Another bad, maybe, metaphor that I've used before, story to describe it, is like if I go to a baby shower. If I go to a baby shower, it'll be the first baby shower I've ever been invited to, and I'm a dude, and so I'm going into a room with like 10 women in a baby shower, and they all know how to act and talk to each other in a baby shower, presumably, and I have no idea. And so if I want to be accepted in the baby shower, it starts with me going to like 20 baby showers and shutting the heck up, and then, you know, like gradually gaining acceptance. So I think it does take a decent amount of just humility and time and patience to really learn the vocabulary of any genre or community, for that matter. Community, you know, and this goes to larger social issues. That's why I use these maybe somewhat facile analogies, but I kind of do think of it that way. I actually do think of it that way. I think like if I want to go hang out with a bunch of women at a baby shower, that like there's you know, like the way that people talk about it in the quote unquote woke culture is they say, I think like that it's like that you know, you know, I shouldn't feel entitled to be in that space. I shouldn't feel that I have the privilege to just do whatever I want in a space of women. You know, and so I think, you know, that's maybe a clumsy way of talking about it. You know, I just talked to my kid who just graduated with a 5-year degree from Oberlin in contemporary American studies to really get the very elegant explanation. But I think that it's very parallel in music. So when we're frustrated because we're not accepted by the cats in jazz, we have to look at ourselves too. Yeah, sometimes people are just idiots, you know, and they treat newcomers in bad. You know, and certainly, you know, I've been to a lot of situations where I go into a jam session and I felt excluded, and that was hard and that sucks. And so I'm sorry if you've ever experienced that. I mean, really, I am. I know what it feels like. But also, we have to look at our side in that. In the same way that if I went to a baby shower and then walked away and said, nobody talked to me, they'd be like, well, you need to learn how it goes. You know, you have to like pay your dues. You know, you have to understand that there's a culture there, you know, of baby showers. So yeah, I think it does take time. It is a real commitment if you want to be, and just because we have earned those dues in our classical community, it's not the same as earning them in a jazz community or a fiddle playing community for that matter. You know, it doesn't matter. And I think a lot of us, we don't mean to, but we condescend. We condescend. Be like, if I go to the baby shower, I'm like, oh, okay, you ladies are having a baby shower. Yeah, well, how do we do this thing, right? And that's like condescending. It's like, you know, and it's like the same thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to go play some fiddle tunes. All this will be fun. Let me just go up and, oh, you guys do this. That's so cool, right? It's like, you know, the people that are in a fiddle community, like, they have their way of doing things. And you got to respect it. You got to give respect to get respect. So that's maybe a healthy way of looking at it. But how much time does it take? I don't think of it that way. I think like in all communities, there are like elders, and then there are people that are just coming in for the first time, and then there's a spectrum. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I've been in the jazz world for 25 years, so I'm kind of like a quasi-elder. But like Herbie Hancock is like a ridiculous elder. You know what I mean? So, does that answer your question, Samuel?
That answers a lot of my questions. And it also is just interesting your experience with the Bobby Floyd thing too, right? Because he's telling you like, this is how the cats do it. They mix, you know, both of these scales, right? But the blues scales, even though, you know, those blues scales would have worked, they're just one or the other. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm curious how you felt 25 years ago. Maybe this is too far, but I'm curious how 25 years ago, how you felt when Bobby Floyd told you to mix the two blues scales. You know what I mean?
I felt enlightened and I felt grateful because Bobby Floyd is like, you know, he's the University of the Streets in Columbus, Ohio. And he was like an elder even then. And so I felt grateful. I also felt confused. I also felt clueless, you know, but that was after I had already, you know, had the 4 years in the joint and this experience with like the cowbell and like, you know, all these other experiences, all these other stories I haven't told you about. But so that was like pre Bobby Floyd, you know, so, and that was all formative as well. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of people would probably say like, since we're talking about this, right? I guess a lot of people would say like, oh, it sounds so cliche. You went to the prison, you learned the blues, but in my case, like that's a big part of the story, is that in prison, I played music with convicts, and I learned from them. And I learned from them in their language. And I ate food and walked on the yard and worked out and talked and, learned their stories and like taught them things and learned a lot more than I taught. So that's my story. That's the reality of it. But even after all that, like the thing is just like, yeah, it just taught me respect. That's why 30 years later, I'm still talking about that.
Cool. Love it. Thank you.
Okay. Megan, what's your question?
Still kind of on the subject of learning licks. This was something I was maybe going to bring up with you in my Facebook thread, but I thought maybe other people would want to hear it. So you mentioned Bill Evans taking a long lick and moving it through 12 keys. I've heard that advice before, and I've tried it, but it feels like the gears are like covered in peanut butter when I do that. And so
write it out.
Write it out. I did. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, because sometimes you've said things like, we'll all have strong keys and weak keys. So I was wondering, how important is it to do all 12 keys? Do you advise like maybe doing the friendliest keys first, and also the micro variation thing was great. I think that'll help me remember them if I kind of make them my own. But yeah, you really think the 12 key thing is important?
Well, I mean, I think that's an aspirational thing. Like the song that you played for us on Thursday, which was amazing, and that you've been working on for a while, like imagine if you learned that in 12 keys, right? I mean, this is, like realistically, are you going to do that? But I mean, as it's like, but would it be useful? So I think, just take it as far as you think it can be useful for you. But I've definitely done that with some licks or patterns or scales. Like a lot of times what we talk about in this class, like all the exercises we do with the different modes, that's basically going through all 12 keys, But even that, I'm always going to have weak keys, strong keys. So I think it all is in balance. It's all got to be in balance. Like you've got to play gig next week. And so you don't have time to play 12 keys. You got to make the gig, and then you got to make the next gig, so that we always have that, like life is coming in against these other things.
So the way I was advised to do it before was to move by fourths or fifths. Like
That's cool.
That's okay. That's worth doing. Okay.
Yeah, either way. I think either way can be useful. Simo, what's up?
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. I just have a question regarding the blues scales. And I'm wondering when we could apply better the scales over the progression, like in the 12-bar blues or over the chords, or for instance, in the tonic, it would be better these scales, or in the dominant, or what would be the best use of the scales?
Yes, so we have the 1 on the 1 and the 5, both. On the 4, the minor. That's it. On the 1 and the 5 chord, you can play both scales. On the 4 chord, you got to play the minor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks.
And you can always try it. Like there's other songs, and maybe I'll bring that back next week, or in the next couple weeks, where I'll bring back songs that contain some blues, and usually what you can be is like, well, let me try both of these scales on this chord and see which one works better. It's kind of like that, you know what I mean? because in some songs they have more than just a 1, 4, and a 5. So even the Norah Jones, well, it left. Let's see here, but a lot of pop tunes, a lot of blues tunes, gospel tunes, fiddle tunes can be approached this way, and you just kind of have to. If once you know it, you can really put a laser, or what's the word, microscope to it, and be like, okay, let me try both of these pentatonics on this chord and see what feels right. Do they both work, or does only one work? And then you can kind of develop like, you can start to see the patterns. Like over the 5 of 2 chord, you can always use the, you know, the this from the tonic, you know, or whatever, you know. But yeah. Richard, what's up? You're muted.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just wondering, whatever I saw 2-5 chords, let's say a minor 7 and dominant 7, can I just in my brain just make it like a tonic, so I can play the
scale,
the tonic scale, and major pentatonic, even minor pentatonic can work?
Well, I think the major pentatonic for sure.
Okay, the minor doesn't work for the dominant third, right?
Well, that's just a little bit of an anomaly, because 2-5-1s are usually more into like a jazz. It kind of depends, but you could definitely get away with the major over the 2 chord. You can get away with the minor over the 5 chord, but it also depends on like the context. If it's like a Charlie Parker tune, you got to be a little more delicate about how you do it. It's gonna be more bebop language and stuff like that. So
I have 3 options. So minor. When I see the minor,
just use the major. Just use the major scale from the tonic.
Scale. And then I can use a Dorian, right, for the minor 7.
The same thing, right?
Mixolydian for dominant.
Same thing. Yep.
Same
exactly.
thing. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Vonnie, what's up?
Sorry, one more question, and I know this is going to sound like I didn't get anything out of any of this, but I will, and it will all sink in. But you came up with 4 scales really like immediately for that for Chameleon. How did you come up with those particular 4?
So A flat major is the key. It's the key signature is written on the chart. There's 4 flats, I think, or however many there are in a key of A flat major, right? So that's that. And then also, you know, like I just know that like, well, it's just the song is just cycling from 2 to 5, 2 to 5, B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. So from years and years of just like learning like generalizations and the conventions that happen, you know, so it's kind of shortcuts that go off in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the, you know what I mean? It's like, well, how do you know that gray sweater goes with those, you know, those black jeans? Like, I can never figure that out. I've been asking my wife that for the last 20 years, and she always gives me a different answer, and I feel like it never makes sense.
Oh, okay. So this is accumulated knowledge then. It's not something we should know after tonight's class.
Right. I think if you dig into this, though, you'll get like, because I've always, I mean, and I'm being serious, like my wife, frequently, in the 20 years we've been together, frequently says, "You're not going to leave the house wearing that, are you?" Like, she says it to me all the time, but it's just like, I'm just not really that interested. I don't really care that much, so I'm never going to learn. I'm sure that I could, though, if I really, but like, I'll gather certain things like, oh, so black always goes with, see, I don't even know. I can't even tell you one thing that is actually true about how to wear clothes that look good together. Something about black always goes with something. I don't know, but that's about all I can do. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, but I think it's the same thing. It's like if you really care about the harmony and stuff, and if you build on all these things and it becomes a part of what you do, you'll start to know all these things really quickly, for sure. Yeah. Does that answer your question? So yeah, I don't expect you to be able to just, snap your fingers and like make these generalizations at all. But these are very specific situations, like, the song Chameleon is a very specific situation. Every one of the songs that we're going over, they're very specific. Part of the reason I'm showing you like lots of different tunes is to bring universal things to it, but also let go of some of the more specific things. Cool. Other questions, thoughts? Yeah, the 20th, that sounds right to me. I'll pull up my calendar. It's the... Yeah, Saturday the 20th is the last group class. That'll be the 14th class. That'll be more than like 33 hours of group class that we will have spent together. Because I usually go long on these classes, more than 2 hours. And you'll have access to the replay for 6 months. If you're interested in coming for the next class that starts in January, we're running like a special right now, like an early registration for like next quarter. And so let me know, or let Lauren know if you want to get in and like get like, you know, the advantages or whatever. If you're in the Facebook group, you can just stay. There's like, we try to make it like incentivized for you to come back. So we try to make it cheaper and like give bonuses for people who want to stick around. And and there's other ways that I'd love to support you as well. And if you give me testimonial, I will be beholden to you for favors forever. Other questions, thoughts, anything anybody wants to share before we go to masterclass? Yeah, Richard, what's up?
Can I quick share your funny thing? I just sent Herbie Hancock song that we just played and to my students, and that they are brothers actually. They both study with me, and they just like that.
That's awesome. Are they in the U.S. or are they in?
They're in China. Yeah, they're
in China.
Beijing. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. How connected are we in this world?
Yeah,
That's
so cute.
So most of your students are in China, is that right, Richard?
Yes. Yeah.
It's so cool. For people that don't know, Richard is getting his MMA, I think it's called, something like this. It's like a post thing at Yale. And he's studying with like Augustine Hadalek, which is like, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing his name. How do you pronounce his name?
Yeah, you're right. Augustine Hadley. Yeah.
Who's like a big deal classical violin guy, you know, and he got hired by Yale this year. So Richard's
Really
at
big
Yale.
deal.
And Richard's from China, but he's running his own online teaching business at the same time. And he's like, you know, crushing it on all fronts, composing like, you know, blues versions of Bach and like, you know, and he's back in this course. And Richard is back in this course. What's this, the 4th or 5th time you've been in this course, Richard?
I think I followed your whole year for 2020, from spring, fall, and winter. Yeah.
So be like Richard, come back. You know, Richard's not too good to come back to this class, and he studies with Augustine Hadalek. So
even I did this so many materials I overlapping in my brain once again and again, and it made me feel quite comfortable for doing the improvise. And now I have an opportunity to rehearse with a jazz band in my school. It's a small ensemble, and then there's the fantastic singer. She can literally sing everything in jazz, and we play some jazz standard like After You're Gone and something like that. And I think that's a great opportunity. I freak out at first when I see the course and what should I do for solo. And more and more this I feel comfortable for that. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you already have a master's degree, but you're getting a MMA. Is that what it's called?
Yes, it's a Master of Music of Art. It's just basically it's less credit than MM, and that's just a chill down semester, and I can just learn something I'm interested in.
So, because a master's degree wasn't enough, you wanted to do more, and then that's not enough, so you're still taking this class. So,
yeah.
Boom.
One of the reasons I want to stay here for one more year is because Augustine Hadlich, he select me as his student. He only take 4 students this semester, so I am one of his 4 students. Yeah, I feel really fortunate.
That's really cool, man. That's really. If you ever need a visa, if you want to stay in the United States afterwards, my wife's an attorney and she does visas for people. But don't tell her I said that. But I'll totally give you her number. But she, you know, yeah. But anyway, sorry,
thanks.
That wasn't relevant to everybody else here. Anything else anybody wants to share about today or ask, or otherwise, let's go to the masterclass. Who wants? If anybody wants to play. Okay, so who's got something to play? Don't be shy. This is for you. I work for you. Everybody's here to support you. Feel free. You got something you want to play. It doesn't have to be finished. Got to go. See you, Carolina. Carolini. See you, Carolini. Going once. Going twice. Okay, well, I'm going to call it. I hope you enjoyed the class. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all. Have a good one.